Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and today we're going to talk about an interesting story that came out during the election. And you had all these supposed members of the intelligence community. I think there was like 50 of them signed a letter and said Hunter Biden's laptop story, which has now just been confirmed by the New York Times. And they said, oh, yeah, this thing actually turns out to be totally legit because all this stuff came out last year. He's got emails on it. He's got videos. There's recordings, him doing drugs. I guess there's hookers in there. There's emails about business deals he's doing, the 10% for the big guy that Trump talked about. I mean, all that stuff was in there. And just the other day, I think it was Matt Gaetz submitted the whole what was on the laptop into congressional record when they were talking to, I guess, whoever it was from the FBI that was testifying. And they said, oh, we lost the laptop. We cannot find it. We don't know where it is. And he says, well, it's been on the internet for the last year. It was released for this reason. We knew you guys would accidentally lose the laptop. And so you could read all the emails and this stuff, and you could see the business deals that he did. And then if you look at the video I talked about, the Chinese professor that goes back to, I think it was about 6 months, 8 months before the election, that Trump lost to Joe Biden, where they were laughing about the fact that they were doing deals with our elite, that they were doing business deals with the people that really control the levers of power in the United States, and kind of complaining about how they really didn't have any power over Trump because Trump wasn't controlled by Wall Street or connected to Wall Street like all the rest of the presidents have been in my lifetime. So they didn't have any leverage. And they were laughing about how that they kind of bought Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. They kind of bought off the Bidens and everybody else by doing business deals with him. And so this stuff's all in Hunter's emails where, the FBI has been investigating him for, I think 6-8 months ago, they announced that there is an ongoing investigation, but all the stuff's out there. And last year, everybody in the media, Twitter, I mean, if you talked about this on social media, they would literally ban you a year ago. And now here we are. It was Russian disinformation, they called it. But I was looking at it, and the people that I follow that are credible were talking about it. This stuff was out there. You could examine it yourself. You could read the emails. You could watch the videos and all the depraved stuff that Hunter Biden was doing. And now a year later, after Joe Biden's in office, oh yeah, it actually turns out that the whole laptop thing was real, which we knew it was real last year, but the mainstream corporate media have been telling us, oh, it's. And then you have all these former members of the intelligence community going, oh yeah, this is the hallmarks. We haven't examined it, but it's got the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. And these are all these, like Clapper and John Brennan, these clowns that have been on CNN, which I've talked about before. These guys have zero credibility. If these are spooks and they were paid liars, and so they're on CNN's network and other networks, and you have to assume if these are spies and they're paid liars, that what's coming out of their mouth is probably lying. And so they've been caught in so many well-known lies, especially the Russia collusion hoax and all that stuff, which was all a lie, and it's been exposed as a lie. And then they're going, oh, this is Russian disinformation on Hunter Biden's laptop just to help Joe Biden get elected. And I've seen some of the polling on this, and it says it's something like 52, 57% of, I think it was Democratic voters were like, well, if they'd have known about this story, that it would have affected their vote. And because the media told them that it was all BS and you got banned if you talked about it last year, now it turns out, yeah, it was all legit. It actually happened. The stuff was real. It wasn't Russian disinformation. And so here we are. The New York Times, the gray lady, as she used to be affectionately known, supposedly the most credible newspaper in the United States of America, turns out that, oh yeah, it's actually real. So Esty, what do you got?
Josh Boswell at the Daily Mail, as well as many other news outlets, are reporting. The New York Times has finally admitted Hunter Biden's laptop is real. More than a year after dailymail.com authenticated its contents with top experts. When
So sorry to interrupt, but the 10% for the big guy. So some of the other things that were in the emails and some of the things that he recorded was just amazing because he's a crackhead basically, and he left the laptop and abandoned it. And some of the things in there was him complaining to his other relatives about the fact that he pays all his dad's bills. And so the way the deal that it worked is that Joe Biden would use, because he was vice president at the time, would use his position as vice president to get these deals done for people that Hunter Biden was involved with. And so they would pay Hunter Biden, he would sit on their boards or whatever. And I think the mayor of Russia, or Moscow, I should say, gave him like $100,000 or whatever. And so Hunter Biden is taking money from these people and then paying his dad's house payment or car payment. And there's nothing wrong with you paying your parents' bills, but anybody that looks at that and sees the emails and the fact that his dad is vice president of the United States at the time under Obama, and like the thing about the firing the Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating Burisma, who was the board of, I think it was an energy company that Hunter Biden sat on the board of. And Joe Biden says, you can see the video of this. He called up and he says, mere weeks after they've been going, oh, this new prosecutor is great, and he's a great anti-corruption prosecutor. He's going to root out all the, because it's well known that Ukraine, just like Russia, is extremely corrupt. And so they're very supportive of this prosecutor. And then the prosecutor starts looking at Burisma, who Joe Biden, who was vice president at the time, his son Hunter, is sitting on the board and getting paid a very nice big fat salary. And then, as Hunter writes about in the emails and I guess the phone calls and other things that were on the laptop, saying, the fact that he is basically paying all of his dad's bills. I think he was complaining to a family member. He was like, well, you're not the one who has to work and give 20% of your money to your dad and pay all of his bills. So that's how it works. So it may not be specifically, I don't know, maybe it sounds illegal as hell, but if he is getting jobs based on the connection, and that's some of the other things that's in the emails, and some of the partners are talking about the connections to where Hunter's going, oh yeah, I'm gonna have you meet my dad, who was vice president at the time. The deal gets done. Hunter gets put on the board or gets a salary or the consulting fee or whatever it is. And then he buys the things for his dad or that his dad wants. And so you look at that and you go, it looks like obvious bribes and payoffs. And, it's in the news and the media now. And I knew all this stuff a year and a half ago when it all came out. And as an American, this is the kind of shit that pisses me off, where you know it's real. You can read and look at the stuff yourself. And yet the media and even all the different social media outlets would ban you. I think it was the New York Post, if I'm not mistaken, got banned from Twitter for sharing the stuff about Hunter Biden because Twitter said it's misinformation, it's Russian misinformation. And it turns out it's all legit. So you got the social media, Twitter, putting your thumb in the scale and not allowing people to talk about it or know about it. And then you got the polls with the Democrats where the majority of them are like, yeah, well, if I'd have known about this Hunter Biden laptop stuff, I would have voted differently in the election. And you look at that and go, wow, the media was in the tank for Joe Biden. They literally helped him get elected by lying by omission and just going, oh, or not reporting it or talking about it, or just saying it was Russian disinformation and then moving on. So they didn't allow the discussion to happen, which is what the media is there for. The media is supposed to report the facts and say, here's what happened. And then you make up your own mind as a voter, whether you believe it or not, or it's Russian disinformation, whatever. But social media and our mainstream media just basically eliminated it from the conversation.
It seems to me like they still think that we're too stupid. You're just the peasants and we're going to just continue this lie.
They believe that. If you're too stupid to know what they're doing, you deserve what they get. That's how or you deserve what you get. That's how they feel about it. They've said it. And a lot of them have written about it.
They accused Trump of the Russian collusion, which was, pretty much demonstrated to be completely made up and false. And then, well,
It was
let's
Hillary Clinton's campaign and the people that were working for her cybersecurity experts, that created the fake digital trail from Russia to Trump Tower to make it look like to the FBI and their friends in government that, hey, Trump Tower is communicating with somebody in Russia. There's packets, electronic digital packets going back and forth. And so then they would go to the FISA court, and therefore they go, well, we got this digital trail here, which was created by Hillary Clinton's campaign operatives, because this is part of the Durham investigation. And so then they go to the FISA court, and the FISA court goes, oh, wow, that looks pretty, okay, well, I grant your warrant. You can go ahead and, unmask these people and listen into the communications, because everything's being recorded. It's just they have to go to the FISA court to get permission to unmask and actually listen to what was said.
Yeah, it's almost like
and it continued after he got sworn in as president. So they were spying on the president of the United States.
So they kind of piggybacked this story and calling it Russian disinformation. And then recently, Trump comes out and speaks about this in an interview. And he says something like, I just want to know what happened to the $3.5 million that was given to the Bidens from the mayor of Moscow's wife. And apparently it was $3.5 million as like a balloon payment and $187,000 per month for I don't know how many months. In asking that question, well, we've created such a lie about the Russians. Let's continue to attack Trump on this and connect him with Putin, which is what they're doing now on the media.
Part of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which was one of Hillary Clinton's idols and people she looked up to, you accuse your enemy or your opponent of the things that you're guilty of. So it's classic projection, and that's what she was doing. The whole thing was they were the ones that were in cahoots and doing all these business deals in Ukraine and other Russian oligarchs.
When files from the laptop were published before the 2020 presidential election, the newspaper cast doubt on its provenance, linked it to Russian disinformation, and made no public attempt to obtain and verify it. Reporters referenced emails obtained by the New York Times from a cache of files that appears to have come from a laptop abandoned by Mr. Biden in a Delaware repair shop. Wow, repair shop?
Yep.
Adding that they were authenticated by people familiar with them and with the investigation.
So he was such an out-of-his-mind crackhead that he basically dropped off one of his laptops that has all this incriminating evidence at the repair shop, and it seems like he forgot about it or forgot where it was, because the repair shop contacted him and they did the work on the computer to fix it. And the way the law works there is if somebody, if you've tried and you've mailed the person, you call them and they just ignore you, he never came in to pick it up, then they're allowed to keep it and then sell it and get what they can to recoup the money, but that they got invested in it. And when they started going through it, he was like, whoa, that's a lot of really shady looking stuff in there. I probably should turn this over to somebody. I think he tried to turn it over to law enforcement, and they were like, they didn't really want it. So I think turned it over to some people in the media, and then that's how it got copied and then got spread everywhere. And I think eventually the FBI, did take possession of it, but when they were in Congress, they were like, we can't find it anywhere. They conveniently lose, just like they lost all of the pictures for Jeffrey Epstein. I think there was like 4,000 pictures that Jeffrey Epstein had of all the underage girls that were part of this, this prostitution ring or pedophile ring, whatever you want to call it. And we don't know where the discs are. They just got lost. It happens. Sorry.
I think about him dropping this thing off at a repair shop. I mean, how many kids would give their phones to their parents with the passwords? Even kids are going to protect anything that they may have, posted to Instagram or whatever their, TikTok. They're going to protect that, and they won't even friend their parents for fear that their parents might see what they're doing on social media. He dropped this off, left it there, and forgot about it.
Who does that?
He's a crackhead, so it's
He's
not surprising. He's not the most reliable person in the world.
Even that,
Even Joe Biden, but even though Joe Biden said my son Hunter is the smartest person I know.
even though I thought they would have like their own like people to do it when they come over or something like that. A repair shop. I think
Criminals are stupid.
Jesus.
Criminals are stupid.
What about men?
Ask anybody that's in law
Men.
enforcement. They'll tell you most criminals are just stupid. That's why they're criminals, and that's why they continue to get caught.
Sheesh.
So last year during the election, what did the Times have to say about the laptop?
The Times has previously repeatedly referred to information from the laptop as purported, in question, and even called it
Unsubstantiated.
Yeah, I had that word. And even called it unsubstantiated in a September 2021 news story, then later quietly removed the word. That's a
So you
little
look at
sus.
that and you go, they're putting their thumb in the scale. It's pretty well known that most of the media leans left, and so Joe Biden was their guy, and they're trying to help their guy get elected. And so even though the evidence was out there at the time that he was totally corrupt, they basically lied about it and they misrepresented it and told something that was an absolute blatant lie. You could say, oh, well, maybe they got it wrong. No, anybody that reads this stuff, I went through it last year. It's like, it was there. It was well examined. Thousands and thousands of people looked over it. Lots of people in the media looked over it. And the mainstream media just looked the other way. Credible reporters talked about it, reported on it. It was well known. If you follow credible news sources, and you would know, because this whole story would not be surprising to you. If you're one of those people that is shocked that the New York Times goes, wow, this thing was actually real, then you're listening to way too much fake news. A big problem in our country and globally is too many people still believe that the news is real. And so, like I said, if this is news to you and you're shocked by this, you need to really re-examine and reconsider who you're getting your news from, because you're not getting the full story.
Corey, you may recall that when the laptop story was first reported by the New York Post, some 50 Intel professionals wrote a letter suggesting it was a Russian disinformation campaign.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
about all these supposed geniuses in our intelligence community, all these lying spies who, most of them are leftists.
The letter stated, we want to emphasize that we do not know if the emails provided to the New York Post by President Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani are genuine or not, and that we do not have evidence of Russian involvement. Just that our experience makes us deeply suspicious that the Russian government played a significant role in this case, the letter stated.
Yeah, so that was the statement, but the way the media reported it is, oh yeah, 50 former Intel professionals wrote a letter and said, oh, it's all just Russian disinformation. But when you look at the context, this is part of the problem with going to the mainstream media, is they're telling you their interpretation of the news or actually what they want you to believe. Because all media is narrative. And so the narrative that they sold the world was that, oh yeah, it's Russian disinformation. These 50 Intel officials just said it was all, BS. But if you read, this is their actual quote, they're like, well, we're suspicious, and it kind of looks like Russian disinformation, but it can't be for sure because we didn't actually examine any of it. It just has the hallmarks, and we kind of think it might be Russian disinformation because it makes our guy, Joe Biden, look bad, and we want him to get elected. That's what was really going on. So they lied and deceived us. And, the media is supposed to tell us the facts and the information so we can make an intelligent and informed decision. And when you look at crap like this, the New York Times, who's now going, oh yeah, this is legit, and they knew it was legit a year ago, were just lying to us. This is the kind of thing that, as Dwight D. Eisenhower said, politics should be the part-time profession of every American. It's up to us to find sources that are credible. Otherwise, we're getting deceived like this.
So far, the intelligence professionals have not apologized. Now, how big of a deal do you think this is, Corey?
Well, it's stuff like this that causes people on the right to go, the election was stolen. It was rigged. They lied to us. So you had the media on the side of Joe Biden covering up for him and his son and his family. Because it wasn't just Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. It was Joe Biden's brother who was also involved in a lot of these shady deals. So it was like the whole Biden crime family. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're being deceived by the media. People that are working 9 to 5 and they're busy as hell, and they come home, they got to pick their kids up from daycare or whatever, or they're rushing them to football practice or baseball or t-ball, or the girls are dancing or cheerleading or whatever it happens to be. Then they finally get home, family dinner, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then they may have caught 20 minutes of the news. They ain't got time to research this stuff. They turn on the news, they get 20, 30 minutes, kind of, oh, yeah, Russian did, okay, oh, yeah. And then they go ahead and they vote because they're being lied to by omission, even though all this stuff is out there. And so the media tells you about the things they want you to know about because, again, all media is narrative. And so they're selling you a way to think and what to think and leaving out key facts and information that you need to make an intelligent, informed decision. How do you feel about that, Mikey?
No, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I would love to do a video like, 10 facts that you don't know about Biden. Because things that you're saying, the media is withholding things from the people. We know about them. We find out about them. We see them on conservative media. We see it on
Twitter.
Yeah.
Facebook.
One of the things I was watching the other day was, as Biden was at a press conference getting the softball questions, it just so happens that he revealed what was on his cheat sheet, and it was picked up on camera. And what he said was exactly word for word what was on his cheat sheet. He knew the question was coming, and he read his answer. It was not from him. A lot of people don't realize that when he's doing these press conferences, he's reading things that we, know about Biden that people don't know. We know about the laptop and the emails. Most people don't know about this. Most people don't know that he really does have some kind of dementia, that he's truly declining because they're not putting that on mainstream media. They're showing his best moments, not his worst moments.
I think the average person at this point, though, can look at that and go, yeah, there's something off there. But it's kind of like cognitive dissonance. It's people look at that and they just explain it away. And like even Jennifer, who was here last week, we were talking about, I mean, she admits that the dude ain't all there anymore. But she doesn't care. She hated, I remember she was like, I hate Trump. I can't stand him. I just want him gone.
She's surrounded by conservatives, though, that are helping her see the truth.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. She sees it her way. She comes from a family of lefties. And it's like she believes like we're still better off with a dementia patient as president. And I always mess with her and tease her like this is why women weren't allowed to vote in the ancient world, because they get emotional about things and they don't look at things logically.
I think the recent string of gaffes by our president, suggesting that we might use chemical warfare in return for chemical warfare. What were the
Then he backs up and says, "No, I never said it." Even like, dude, you're on video. It's like he doesn't really know, and so he's saying these things. And obviously, the Russians, the Chinese, all the people that don't like us are watching this and interpret. I think Putin can tell. I think Xi knows. Even Kim Jong-un of North Korea knows that Biden's got dementia and he ain't all there. And, because even North Korea just recently started firing off missiles again because they're like, hey, the United States is weak right now with the government that's in there. So hey, if you want to make any territorial gain, that's why the Russians invaded. Even Trevor Noah, who was a lefty, was saying, this wouldn't have happened under Trump. There's no way Russia would have invaded Ukraine under Trump. And so people on the left, they're far left type of people, Bernie supporters, like this wouldn't happen under Trump. I mean, it is what it is. Weakness invites aggression, like we were talking about in the other video that we did. That's why all this stuff is going on. And like Biden ain't all there. He's given stuff by his handlers and read this. And you look at his notes, it's like everything's kind of prepared. He calls on specific people that they know ahead of time what questions they're going to ask. He's got a prepared answer. He can read it right off his card, makes it, I mean, they're just like, feeding a guy pudding basically with a spoon in front of the whole world.
I would like to know what they have against him where, when they said, hey, look, you're going to be president whether you like it or not. And if you choose not, then, this is going to be made known to the world that you...
Biden has been trying to win the presidency. This is, I don't know, the fifth or sixth time I think he ran. He ran in the 80s, and then he was like, I was the smartest one in my class, and I wrote this. And it turned out that everything he said was all bullshit, and it got exposed as a liar. And this was like in the 1980s when we were younger, back in our high school days, and so he was a known liar, and that torpedoed that particular campaign. He ran against Obama, eventually obviously lost, and then he became his vice president for 8 years, and finally this has been his dream his whole life, is being president.
Well, he didn't win. He was made president. It was determined that he was going to be the president. They were going to do whatever they had to make him the president, and whatever they have against him.
Mark Zuckerberg spent it was like $450 million, because I mean Trump was saying, I'm going to just basically destroy your business, and if you're a billionaire and your life's work that you started when you were in college, you get the president, the most powerful person in the world, going, I'm going to destroy your business. If I'm Mark Zuckerberg and I got the money, it's like I'd probably spend $450 million too to help get the people to turn out to vote against him or to vote for Biden. It's enlightened self-interest. As an American, you have the ability to do that. And so far, everything I've seen, the way he did it, he had his lawyers and he followed the law, and that's what you're able to do in America. But he put his money to work. You had the rest of the oligarchs and the people that didn't like the trade policies, because it was great for us. It brought jobs back over here, and they made more money when the things were done overseas, and it upset the world order. They didn't like it. And when you read, there was a Time magazine article written by Nancy Pelosi's biographer, and it came out earlier this past year, where it said, we fortified the election. We saved democracy. In other words, their idea of fortifying the election was the different oligarchs and trust fund babies and people, the elite, if you will, got together and pooled their resources on all sides of the aisle. It wasn't just Democrats. It was Democrats, Republicans, Independents. The oligarchs, the people in power, got together, pooled their resources because they wanted to get rid of Trump, because his America First policies were against what the elite wanted. And they kicked his ass. I mean, Trump got crushed. And he let it happen. He trusted people in his own. He brought in a bunch of the swamp creatures, thinking, hey, if I hire them, they'll have the best interests of the country at heart, and we'll all work together. And the reality is they smiled to his face while they stabbed him in the back. Like, what's her name? Fiona Hill, I think it was. Am I right? Fiona Hill was one of them. It's like all these people work for him and smile to his face while they're trying to gum up the works and slow roll the implementation of his agenda. And that was part of the problem with a guy like him being in the world of Hollywood, where everybody's so fake and plastic. And you look at Omarosa, who he had working for him, she stabbed him in the back. And it's like that's how those people are in Hollywood. That's how those people are in government. That's how the swamp operates. And so he thought, hey, we'll all come together and work for the best interests of the country. It's like, no, they knifed him in the back every chance that they got. And he trusted that the Republican Party was going to make sure that there were no shenanigans, no legal shenanigans going on with the vote and the ballots. And they didn't care. They didn't do anything because they wanted him gone. He was a threat to them. And like I said, there's a Time magazine article. You can read about it. It's Nancy Pelosi's biographer wrote a big deal in Time, basically spiking the football and bragging how they got rid of Trump. They fortified the election. What they did was legal, technically legal, but was it right? Was it honest? Was it just? They, in essence, subverted the will of the people. They propagandized enough people to believe a certain way, and they put their thumbs on the scale. Things like this, the Hunter Biden laptop thing, just buried the story that literally could have swung the election the other way.